been able to give myself a little shine right now, 3 times in a row, top agent in the company. So that's why. It's because of time management, though. It really is. So when we talk about time management, it's not really a question about your time. It's more a question about your choices. What's happening? JC Agajanian here, coming to you again with our weekly Monday Morning Mastermind recap. It's a recap of the mastermind that the Fast Forward Network does every Monday morning. And as usual, we field a couple great questions and then everyone chimes in with their advice. And these are people with literally hundreds of millions of production individually chiming in just to tell you what their experiences over time have brought them and how they've accomplished these goals. So today we've got a couple great topics to cover. They sound kind of fundamental, kind of basic, but things always go high level when we get in conversations with the mastermind at the Fast Forward Network. So, today we're talking about lead gen and workflow. How are you going to generate leads and how are you going to process those leads once you get them in? And the other subject is time management strategies. It seems like it's the most basic of topics, but it is all encompassing, covers all of our work, whether you're a team lead, running a team, producing hundreds of millions of dollars in volume every year, or if you're a solo agent. This time management thing is crucial for everybody. So let's get straight into it. First of all, lead gen and workflow. First things first, we need to be able to categorize these leads. Let's assume we've already got them in first, right? We need to categorize them based on intent and based on timing. So our focus really needs to be on the people that are committed to us and then those time frames closest to now, right? So that's, if we're going to triage, if you will, or really figure out how we're going to prioritize the leads that we are working, that's it. The timing and whether or not they have any level of commitment to us. Those are the people we need to spend most energy on. And the example is if someone says, hey, your job's on the line if you don't produce something in the next 30 days, like where are you going to go in your database to get that business? This is how to do it. So follow-up calls are going to be dictated on which category they fall into, and you gotta start with a lot of follow-up calls. Start with at least a few times a week as an example. There's a company that I learned about this morning actually that I never heard of before called Hatch Systems. Apparently they offer a really good done-for-you service that has timelines, action steps, drips, etc. Everything is all built out for you. And it actually, it doesn't replace your CRM, it plugs into your CRM for you. And so if you don't have an operator or a COO there to help you build out systems, which most people don't, we are fortunate at the Whissel Realty Group to have one of those. But if you don't have one, Hatch Systems could be a great solution for you. If not, then I would definitely look into finding a team similar in size to the one you're building, or maybe a solo group that has these things in place, and just finding systems and structures that work so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We call that R&D. Just go ahead and rip off and duplicate that. There's no sense in burning your brain to figure this stuff out on your own when it's definitely been thought about and done by other people already for you. So with all that being said, we do need to be careful though, because as you well know, not all leads are created equal. They're not all, they don't need the same messaging. They don't get the same conversation once we get on the phone with them. Everybody's different, and the frequency of follow-up is going to vary depending on where that lead came from and where they're at in the funnel. So we need to think about truly like what happened to get this person from obscurity out in the webverse or whatever to in my system somehow. What did they do? What actions did they take to put them in my database or put them on the phone with me or in my inbox, and now we're talking with them? Think about the steps they went through, and that will help inform what kind of follow-up you're going to do with them. So, for example, some inexpensive leads that were generated maybe in mass, I'm thinking like Facebook type leads that are very cheap, but lower on quality and higher in the funnel. If we picture the funnel, like lots of people are up high and then they move down into people that actually become clients and close deals, right? So if they're higher in the funnel, very inexpensive, we're going to need to lean on automations a lot more. But for that referral that came in from a friend or family member, like, we're not even touching them with automations. We want a genuine conversation, because that person will probably need maybe 1 or 2 phone call attempts to get them on the phone, have a nice qualifying conversation, and then move forward. Whereas that Facebook lead that doesn't know who you are, that was just kind of like intrigued by a pretty home, a pretty picture of a nice home, that's going to need a whole different level of effort to make contact, whether it be text, phone, or email for the first time. So, the biggest thing we really need to do when all this conversation is said and done is to really do better with the opportunities we've got, not necessarily go out and stress about making more opportunities or more leads. Because if we can increase our conversion, that exponentially increases our bottom line and decreases our overhead of cost of leads going in. So if we can really focus on that conversion and do better with the opportunities we have, it's going to change your business entirely. So for every lead, you've got to answer a couple questions. And this kind of goes back to a couple comments I made, a couple earlier, which is, when do they intend to buy the property? And on a scale of 1 to 5, how likely is it that that lead is going to use you or use me as their agent? These are the 2 most important questions that we need to have in mind when we're talking to that lead for the first time, trying to qualify them. And when we're looking through how to categorize leads for follow-up phone calls, because those ones that are higher on that scale are going to need a lot more personal touch, and we're going to be wanting to get in touch with them sooner than people who are farther out or less committed. Kyle, who owns our team, actually brought up a database system that we have, and basically it broke down he kind of opened up our internal company data over about 35,000 leads in the past several months. He dug into it, and basically the data is telling him that it takes 25 attempts to make connection, right? 25 attempts, and this includes our automations, and this includes leads that are lower price points, so therefore higher in the funnel, not necessarily that warm referral from a friend or past client. 25 attempts, and at least 10 to 12 of them need to be actual attempts on the phone by a live person, not your AI chatbot or your text, feed that happens automatically. So this is like helping to demonstrate the level of seriousness it's going to take to really do well with leads of all types. Okay. So, don't fall into the trap of thinking that you're going to bother them, or you're trying too many times, or you're going to be a nuisance. Like, 25 attempts is what it takes. And that's recent data with a good sample size of over 35,000 leads that we've got. And that's just our company right here, real stuff. It's not some study that somebody did. That's real live stuff. So call often and call quickly is basically the rule of thumb there. You can't really overdo it when you're trying to make contact. And if you ruffle some feathers, then you can come up with a couple objection handlers. Hey, wouldn't you want to make sure that I'm this persistent when I'm getting you a good deal on your home, or something to that effect? And then it goes away, and you keep on conversing. So don't get in your head about that stuff, but do the work, okay? And that's going to wrap up the first subject. We're going to move on to time management strategies, and this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. It's something that I started working on immediately, actually before I joined the Whissel team 8 years ago, but really seriously kind of like looking at what Kyle's doing with his calendar and how he spends his time, and I've replicated that a lot. And now that our company is 60, 70 agents deep with a large group of admin and staff as well, I continually get praise from the rest of the company for having, besides Kyle, the one who's got his calendar locked in the most. And so that means that I've taken it seriously, and it's the reason I've been able to give myself a little shine right now, 3 times in a row, top agent in the company. So that's why. It's because of time management, though. It really is. So when we talk about time management, it's not really a question about your time. It's more a question about your choices. we've all got plenty of time, and we've got the same amount of time that Elon or Bill Gates or anybody else does, Bezos or Branson, right? We've got the same amount of time they do. So the problem is holding the time accountable for the task that it's been earmarked for, and that's us. We need to know how we should first, before we do anything, best be spending our time, and then we need to follow through and be held accountable for, are we actually making that happen? So again, we need categories. Let's have our business, our personal or social relationships. Let's have our me time, and let's build out our perfect days, weeks, months, quarters, and years according to what we have decided our priorities are. This is where the real fortune of being able to work for ourselves comes in, is we get to make the decision on what is most important. We're working for somebody else. They're telling us what's most important. They're pushing it on us, and we don't have any choice. We actually get the luxury of building in our personal time, our relationship time, our physical time, all that stuff into our calendar, because our calendar is global. It is not just the 9 to 5. Our calendar and our business goes outside of regular time, but also that means we're able to control it all and decide how we want to spend that time ahead of time. So we build it out, and then our discipline allows us to follow through. So, really, in order for us to get where we want to go, we've got to become wildly comfortable with the uncomfortable. It means holding yourself accountable to do the things that you don't want to do when you don't want to do them, but doing them anyways because you've made a promise to yourself that that's what needs to happen in order for you to achieve your goals. It's that simple. It really is. So you got to create a filter. You got to create what's most critical for you in your business and why, and then do something similar for your personal life. And we choose these things that are most important and literally carve out time on the calendar. And because if we don't do that, if we don't time block it and we don't set it aside and we don't mark ourselves as busy for those things at those times, everything else in the world will come in and try and take our time from us. You know it and I know it. It happens all the time. So we've got to become real comfortable saying no to people. Respectfully, kindly, but saying no, because that's the only way to defend your time. We've got to do it a lot more things than ever before. But by doing that, you get to go home and be present with your family in the evenings, or stay consistent in the gym, or have, any semblance of a work-life balance. Maybe carve out your entire Sunday and say, I'm never working another Sunday. These things are all very possible. And for you crazy, busy realtors out there that say, that's nuts, I've never been able to have any sort of personal time, it's all work all the time, this is doable, and it's doable at high level, right? So I've been able to accomplish this. I work weekends, but very sparingly. I'm home by 6 with my kids, and I spend nights and evenings with them and my wife, and I try not to work on Sundays unless I decide to. And I still produced over 30 million last year. So, it's very doable, but it's very difficult, and you've got to really work on your discipline and your commitment to that time block. So daily action plans are huge. They're going to help you create those time blocks. A great tool for if this is all new to you is to really go in and audit your calendar. You can call it a stop, start, continue, or a red light, yellow light, green light plan. But really, the idea is to get serious about it and go in and record your activities every 15 minutes, checking in on your calendar, reporting to it like a boss what you are doing every 15 minutes for at least a couple weeks. Just monotonously, like without thought, just continually put in exactly what your time is doing all the time of the day. Then you can go back and look at it, and you can evaluate, how am I spending my time? Am I being responsible? Am I wasting time? Are there any habits that I've noticed that are, kind of betraying me with my time management? Or are there things that I could be doing more of, and other things that I should be doing less of? This is how we prioritize things, and maybe you lean on support staff in your company, or you decide to hire that first assistant, whatever the case may be. This honest audit is a huge first step to help you understand really what's going on. And if you're not willing to do this, you're not willing to get serious about your time, plain and simple. This is absolutely crucial, because if you can't do this, you're not going to be able to maintain 15 to 30 minute blocks every single day in perpetuity, which is what I do right now. So, the idea of seeing a lot of white space should be kind of alarming to you once you've got this figured out and you're building your calendars and you're blocking your weeks ahead of time. Unless it's there deliberately, that means you don't have a plan for that period of time during the day, which means there's a very good chance it could be wasted. So, one idea that one of the members who's been at this probably equal, if not longer than I am, is to make themes to your days, to bring a character to the week, batch as much of the similar type of work as you can into shorter periods of time. For example, if you're trying to make social media posts of some sort, do it all at once for a week or two. That way that's not a little thing that you're having to do all the time. You just sit down for 2 or 3 hours, knock out a ton of content, think ahead of time, use planning and thought, all the different things that you want to do, and just do it. And then you can schedule when you want to set them out and how you want to do it, distribute it. There's a whole nother conversation there about social media and how to reuse different clips and everything. But that's just one example of batching your time. You should batch as much of your work as you can. She also brought up the idea of family board meetings, which I think is a great idea that I'd like to incorporate myself that I haven't yet. But the idea is to basically say, hey, you know what, kids, I got a crazy week this week, but on Friday, we're all going to be doing this, so bear with me or whatever, or just basically treating them like normal people and not just your kids, and cluing them into what you got going on and how they fit into your life and letting them know that they're also a priority. And that you're not just vanished into thin air when you're gone during the day and then show up, in nights and weekends. So, being real is huge. Like if you have gotten to the point where you've audited your calendar and now you're time blocking and you're scheduling your days and weeks, but it's not genuine, what are we doing? It's a waste of time, right? So you got to reconcile your calendar. And this needs to happen at least daily, if not multiple times throughout the day. So if you've got, for example, I'm going to make phone calls at noon of prospecting, and that doesn't happen, and it's 3:00, and you look back and you realize, something held me up and I was doing something else. Well, you need to go back and change that in your calendar and be real about yourself. Be honest with yourself. Actually, my lunch went way late and I ended up having drinks. That was a waste of time. Or maybe you ended up having drinks because it was a really important conversation with somebody who's going to lead to new business in the future. So that's not a waste of time. It was a different form of prospecting, but you didn't make those phone calls and they still need to be made somewhere else. Whatever the case, you need to be real with yourself. Your calendar needs to be a true reflection of what you intend to do and in retrospect, what actually happened. Okay, that's huge. So reconciliation with your calendar, being honest with yourself is big. And if you burnt 30 minutes hanging out by the water cooler, chatting with some coworkers, be real about it. Put it in the calendar. Waste of time, hanging with friends, whatever. But at least you're honest with yourself and okay, there was an opportunity lost there, but I'm moving on and we're going to make the most of it going forward. So start with your yearly goals, break them down into quarterly rocks, then figure out what needs to happen each month. Because that's, a 3-month period to get that rock done, and then break those months down into weeks and days. And that's how you build your calendar. It's oversimplified, but those are the tools that you need to do. And it's really helpful if you get serious about it and dig into it. There's a book that was mentioned that you can check out called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. Check that out. But honestly, this is going to be the biggest piece of your whole business. And it really doesn't matter what business you're in or what kind of personal social life you're trying to build. Owning your calendar and being real about it is the key to productivity. So that's it for the day's topics. We spent a lot of time on just 2 instead of covering 3 today, but if this is helpful, I hope it was. I hope you found something you can implement into your business right away. If that's the case, would love for you to subscribe and turn that notification bell on for me. It helps us in what we're doing here. And if you're interested, I'd be happy to share a perfect calendar of my own that I use and that I work off of to make my actual calendar a reality. So just feel free to hit me up and I'll send it to you. Have a great week. I'll talk to you soon.